Mr. NSN Murty, Partner, Government and Public Services Consulting Leader, Deloitte, India, for a special address. I request you all, please help me to welcome, sir. A round of applause, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Sharma. So nice to see you again. Before me, Golakji and Abhijit actually set the context on the stage for how the PSUs are important and why the country is looking forward to it. I wrote a little bit of stuff on that, and since Abhijit and Golakji already spoke about it, so I had to actually rewrite everything, bullets. So I'm going to change the entire topic and say that we know that PSUs are required, or enterprises are required today to look at the 𝗖𝗍𝗃 Bharat agenda. But are we ready for that? What is that core that we need to build? And I'll share few of the elements that we have been discussing with everyone, whether it is a large Maharatna, a Navratna, or a Mini Ratna, and everyone. So we are sharing the same thing. One of the most important thing is, how do you build the core of the organization? How fast you do the digitalization? How fast you get the core systems up and running in terms of digital infrastructure? Now, when I say digital infrastructure, you go for any kind of an ERP or stuff. So that's a different one. But where is your readiness with respect to the agile hard infrastructure? Whether it is a network, whether it is to do with the on-prem or a cloud infrastructure. I think usually when we look at, and I'm going to do less of points that are more of a experiential learning. When we usually go to any of the enterprises, we actually talk about everything on the application, but forget about the core infrastructure. That becomes a bill of material. But when you actually go into the implementation of a project, the biggest hurdle for you is actually the infrastructure. It's not the application, because application is something which is designed for you, can be customized, but you don't plan for your infra, whether it is an on-prem, whether it is a private cloud or is a public cloud. If you don't plan that well, and if you don't budget that well, that actually becomes a kind of a bottleneck to the implementation. Yes, application, whichever is one which is required for you, it's very essential. But planning of the infrastructure usually takes a second fiddle role, which actually troubles you at the second half. That's part one. The second is, I think most of us, when we sit in the driving seat of a car, if you don't put a seat belt, you'll get a beep, right? After about a minute, or even less than a minute. It doesn't allow. In some countries, they do not let the ignition actually the car doesn't start if you don't put a seat belt. Then why do we have to actually have a project delivered and then we start thinking about a cyber security? Cyber security is your seatbelt. It should actually be beeping on the CMD's radar saying that I'm not taken care of it. And I have seen umpteen number of cases when application projects have been deployed, delivered, and then we are looking at where are we in terms of the cyber security strategy. It has to be bundled into the core digital modernization project of your enterprise, without which I think any of the applications should not even be thought about implementing, because not just the main core applications, data, even the endpoint devices needs to be secured. That's the second part. The third is where I look at as most of the PSUs are into a B2B function. That means you don't directly address a citizen, but you actually enable the infrastructure which addresses a citizen. So if we are looking at an experience, and the government has become extremely clear, and we see this in almost every project, how fast I can deliver my services to the citizen, how better I can deliver the services to the citizen. How can I actually make it simple for them to deliver service? Because if I heard a couple of speeches of our Honorable Prime Minister, he spoke about how efficiently the pension is getting delivered. But is the delivery of the pension is the front end which is giving a wow effect, but at the back end there is a system, right? Back end there are institutions, there are PSUs who are actually working, who deliver these areas. I'm talking about not just the pension part of it, but many more services. If a petrol is gives a wow effect at the retail entity, then there is a petroleum, oil and gas PSU which is at the back end, which needs to be more efficient so that the distribution is better. So everything needs to be in tandem. Does that mean the experience is only limited to the front end companies or the services? It is not. More you actually build the muscle of creating an experience, much better will be your distribution and availability to the citizens. So it's always starts with the back end and then it gets, because otherwise it will be a wrapper. Core is not well developed and wrapper is always trying to create some beautification. The third one or a fourth one I would actually like to touch is on, now it's a buzzword and I can't live without that, Gen AI. Generative AI is, everyone will talk, and I think there will be a session, at least in one session somebody will say generative AI is must for every organization, and I also say it's must for every organization. But I want to actually twist it. Please do not look at only the services part of it. And let me ask, is all of you who actually become grow your careers come from the same school? Have you studied in the same school? Have you studied in the same college? Have you studied the same stream? Have you actually worked in the same department and grown up? Of course not. Then why your curriculum when you got taught, and I'm talking about senior levels, it is one single curriculum for everyone. All 20 people go into executive session and try to actually learn a same set of coaching. Gen AI actually gives you a power to, based on your own personal. If NSN has actually done his graduation somewhere else, last 24, 25 years, I have worked on various fields. Based on my learning or based on my background, am I a person who's actually more pictorial, or I want to hear or listen more? Or I want to actually only go into a hands-on discussion. My learning at an executive, senior level is quite different from at a junior apprentices level or the middle management. It's extremely different. It's a much more mass customized. It's very, very important, because for me, a 10 minutes learning to grab a subject is much more vital than to do a 2 hours of session. Because I need to do that 10 minutes very quickly to understand and take an executive decision, rather than get a 2 hours of what you call a certificate session. So Gen AI gives you that power. Please do not think the power of Gen AI is only for a mass delivery of services, improvement of supra. It is for an individual to also create. For example, I told one of the very senior IS officer, I said, how you are actually getting trained, and we are actually looking at, he said, we have these training programs. I said, do you like to actually read through a PPT, or you actually, PPT to aa jata hai, like, but keep it, but somebody actually dictates me 10 points out of that. And I read only those 10 points. So that's the Gen AI. If you have 20 such PPTs or documents or YouTube videos, it creates those 10 points which are most relevant to you. You don't need to go through all this thing. This is the mass customized at an executive level. It's important. Please incorporate Gen AI. And before the other speaker or the panelists would have said Gen AI is important, I'm saying Gen AI is important for you rather than your organization at the senior level. It's first you and then the organization. The last 2 points I'll leave it is, we are building so much, we are investing so much of money in technology. But please start thinking about packaging it and replicating it and giving it to your peers. It's important, the time has come, the Atmanirbharta in terms of the solution applications also should be with us. We should have those packages of solution. If you have built a solution which is on project management toolkit for XYZ area, please make it as an open and give it to the, put it on an open source so that others can benefit out of this. It's a public good which can be created by all PSUs and can give in, because end of the day, somebody else can benefit. Yes, they would require a little bit of customization, and people like me and a couple of us in the room will lose our business a little bit, but as a country, when we increase the pie, it will benefit everyone. Instead of a myopic view of today losing money, if we look at a larger picture of creating it for a public good for others, I'm 100% sure, more than 100% sure, it will create much better business avenues for everyone. Just the last one, I think Abhijit touched on that, and even Golokji touched on that, is the net zero or part. I can't live without that. There is something which we call as, we all are responsible for our environment, our societies. While you're doing, and I'm touch on only the digital part, while we are doing the digital part of it, the easiest couple of things that we could do is choose or force your system integrator to choose a coding which will help reduce the efforts. So what we call is, in our language, is enterprise conscious coding. So it means that you actually do or use coding which will decrease the carbon efficiency of that coding by 30–40%. So every email of yours, every document of yours actually leads to cutting multiple trees. So how, if I even reduce by 30% or 20% of that coding effort, it will help you save a net zero. And the last one is, if it is not required on the digital front, if you are not looking at an application which needs to be delivered, please do not actually take it, because it can be actually an integrated one. It could be a +1 for within your current context of technology framework. But don't try to create multiple projects, because multiple projects requires multiple infrastructure, multiple projects require multiple MSIs, multiple projects will require multiple service delivery or managed services providers. Try and see if I can consolidate. There's nothing wrong in consolidating and aggregating this. This will actually give you economies of scale. That also leads to optimization of your infrastructure, your coding, your resources, and the third-party resources also. I'll stop at this. These are few things which are more experiential than anything which is written in the books. So I thought I'll share with you. Thank you so much for having me here.